everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Conversations with Shareka. This month of November is all about money and money mindset. And today's guest, Mr. Jeff McCallum, is a best-selling co-author of two books, 101 Reasons Why You Should Write a Book, and the other one is Change One Belief, right? Now, he's passionate about podcasting. He's a mentor. He's all about living a full life. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's founded and sold multiple companies. And he's the person that I will be talking to today. So I am going to be inviting Mr. McCallum to join us right now. Okay, let's see. Not coming up. Jeff, if you're seeing me, could you hop on, please? You're not coming up when I try to invite you. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, yes, while we wait on Mr. McCallum to join us, okay, here we go. Hi Jeff, I sent you a invite to join me. If you could accept that. Okay, there we go. Awesome.
Hey, there you, excuse me, there you are.
Yes, I am here. Hi, how are you?
Well, really good. Good to see
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Can kind of
Good to see you
get
too.
this sorted out here to sort of groovy.
Okay,
All I can see
awesome.
is,
Could you get your camera down a little bit more where we can see your face fully? Okay, I think Jeff lost connection or something. Okay, I think Jeff is having some internet issues. Hold on a moment. Okay, here he is.
can you
Okay,
see me?
perfect. Yes, I can see you.
But you can't see me. Am I too low?
Yeah, you're a little too low, so maybe you could get your camera down a bit.
Okay, hang on. How's that?
Ah, much better, thank you.
All I can see is the text.
Okay, so you're not able to see me?
I can see you. You bet.
Okay, awesome. I can see you perfectly. You're perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I've heard your voice so many times. It's the first time seeing your face. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Okay, awesome. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeff.
Well, what is there to say except I'm living the dream, and what I mean by that, that's been something I've been spouting all my life. So one day I just woke up and here I am living the dream. Listen, I've always been a person that's had a major burning desire, and I think I was just in Clubhouse listening to Manny talk about, some people are born with ambition, and I believe I was born with major ambition. I call
Wow.
it burning desire. I've always been a dreamer, you know, a non-stop dreamer. My
Right.
my thing in life was I wanted to be a rock star at one time. You know, we all had these fantasies of, I don't know if it was being a rock star or it was just wanting to be around people and feel the energy from people. I,
Right.
and that's really developed my life, man, because every time there was a problem, I had my own inner goal setting ambition. It just everything worked out for me all the time because I kept pushing the envelope about who I was. I wasn't sort of
Right.
happy with the norm in life, if you will.
Mhm.
Get a
Right.
job, a normal job, go to work, you know. So anyhow,
Right.
that's
Okay.
who I am so far.
Okay. Were you born in financial opulence, or was that something you had to create for yourself?
Oh no, I had to create it myself. Um, but I wasn't, you know, I graduated in 1980. And in
Right.
1980, interest rates were super high. I didn't need to worry about any of that because I didn't own a house in 1980.
Hmm.
But I did go north. That was it. Graduate and go get a job in the oil and gas industry because that's where my dad was part of oil and gas for years. So I went
Right.
up there and I worked in a gas plant. Real fun, right? But even then, I was sort of handed a job that was, you know, I was safety man. I remember that. And I got the job because my brother had been there and my dad had been at West Coast Energy. And we had lived it, you know, for this company, he'd worked for this company for many years. So I was a little bit spoiled that way. I had a, you know, in the 80s, you could pick and choose work. It's kind of like it
Right.
is right now. Right now,
Hmm.
you could go get a job in 5 minutes if you know, COVID or not. There's tons of work out there. So anyhow, I disliked any of the trades. I didn't like plumbing. I didn't like welding. I wasn't interested in any of that at all. I was a musician. That was a dreamer, right? You know, somehow I had to find my way, but I knew it was people anyway. Yeah, that's where it started in the gas plant. And
Okay, so how did you go from wanting to be a musician to becoming an entrepreneur who's built founded several companies? How did that transition take place? How did that begin?
well, you know, the working up north, I call it misspent youth, just a little further in years, right? We
Hmm.
have misspent youth. So I was what, by the time I left Fort Nelson, I was, gosh, it was 1983 or something, and I bought into a taxi business so I could get out of the north. I had no other, you know, I had a fair bit of money, but really nothing to speak of.
Right. Hmm.
So I bought into this taxi business, and then I thought, great, all cash business. Just I started out with that business that learned how to do the books, and then went on to work for a pest control company and was a salesman in that company. And they
Right.
taught me how to do sales. I know that sounds, you know, I went to Toronto and they put me through management. And then I looked after my own area for 4 years. And it
Okay.
was kind of good because um, it taught me to work on my own.
Right.
And then I went out and I started a company and I bought into a franchise. And essentially, again, it was working on your own in the carpet cleaning industry. And when the carpet cleaning business started in 1990, nobody knew what fire and flood restoration was. So one thing led to the other. So I got into the fire and flood restoration industry. Back then, nobody knew, you know, you had to call somebody that had a carpet cleaning unit in order to extract water out of the basement. And then I thought, wow, I can also rent equipment to these people to dry their place. And
Right.
then it just meant nothing but dollar bills, right? So fans, dehumidifiers, stuff like that. So while building these companies, like while that company was a franchise, and it wet my beak further in doing my own paperwork, learning how to do uh, what a balance sheet meant. You know, when you're out there hunting every day and skinning your own, you know, meat to put food on the table, you're pretty hungry for information. So you're not only
Right.
reading books, you're hanging out with the right people. And I was lucky enough to have the franchisee or the franchisor at the time was Bob Burnham, and he's 10 years older than me. And
Hmm.
anytime I had a new claim, I would say to him, hey, do you realize what we have here? This is like we're about to ride this wave in an industry that's just going to take off. And it did
Right.
take off. you know, now restoration companies are everywhere, and they're restoration companies are sought after if they're good because they make
Right.
lots of money, right? So as that company was moving along, because Bob and I were reading a lot of books back and forth together, right? And I said, look, I'll take the restoration and I'll go and do my thing with the restoration. He was part of that in the very, very beginning as a partner, and then I did my own thing. But we actually ended up deciding to get a company together, well, writing a book. We wrote a book together called 101 Reasons Why You Must Write a Book.
Right.
And the title was obvious, and we came up with the title because we had attended so many different seminars on internet marketing, met all the gurus, you know, went to Russell Brunson's, met Frank Kern, Alex Mandosi, and all the internet people from way back when. I'll never
Right.
forget seeing, as an example, seeing Frank Kern with, you know, sideburns, cowboy boots and he was from Georgia or something, and he had tax issues because he made a fair bit of money on the internet selling how to teach your parrot how to speak, something ridiculous like that, when search optimization was really inexpensive to do. So these guys were making a ton of cash online. So we hung out with him. And Dan Kennedy, have you ever heard of Dan Kennedy?
No, I
He's
haven't.
another, look up him. He's a direct marketing salesman. Dan, it's called Glazier Kennedy now because he brought a partner on, but actually Dan almost died this year, but he is the king of direct marketing and ad.
Okay.
Okay, so he would do long form letters and then mark them up and go, you know, because most people that read long form letters, they don't read them, they scan them, right? Anyhow, another
Right.
story. So we filled our bucket with, you know, all these different seminars. And then we also went to like the common theme with these internet marketing people were they had mindset behind them. They read the books. They
Right.
loved Tony Robbins. My first set of tapes, I aged myself, was, you know, I always would listen to Tony Robbins every day. You know,
Right.
Dr. Wayne Dyer, the first book my brother gave me was Erroneous Zones, and then Pulling Your Own Strings. And then I read Magic of Believing. I'll never forget reading Magic of Believing and Magic of Thinking Big. That book blew me away. Talk about enthusiasm when you're small. So
Yeah.
here I was, you know, with this burning desire that I could, and then I figured with self-help, I could direct all this energy in a specific way. And so when Bob and I wrote the book, 101 Reasons Why You Must Write a Book, we came to this place where, like, we've read these books, we see what everybody's doing out there. Any seminar we'd go to, there would be like a weekend seminar would have, you know, 20 speakers, and they'd all do an hour and a half platform. They'd sit up there and everyone would run to the back of the room to buy their stuff. And then the next guy would come up, here's my book. I'm the best. I'm the smartest. So we thought, wow, you know, that's a business we can get our heads behind or whatever. So we started Expert Author Publishing, and we would teach people how to write and publish books. So there was a funnel. People call it a funnel now. Back then it was just called a sales process. You know, everyone touts. Russell Brunson was the one that coined the phrase ClickFunnels, right? I knew him before ClickFunnels, and he had it all down pat in terms of sales process. Anyhow, digress. So we would funnel everybody into a strategy session. How do where are you at with your book? Have you written your book? You know, have you not written your book? What title do you want? We help everybody with that. We have different packages where we taught people how to write and publish. So that was a lot of fun. And talk about everything being made up. I mean, we're making this up as we went. Nobody put a sword on our shoulder and said, hey, you are now a guru. You know, I didn't even know what the word imposter syndrome meant until I came to Clubhouse this many years later, going, you know, really what I've done is a big deal, where everybody now, when you're an author, it's like you're this. Anyhow, I'll back off a bit, but it's funny because out of the time we started Expert Author Publishing, I had the service company going too. So we decided we're going to open this company called Burnmac, Bob Burnham, Jeff McCallum. So
Oh,
Burnmac.com came out of, it was a painting, carpet cleaning franchise company. And what we did was we had advertising that was $3.99 for 3 rooms of painting. Now think about something as stupid as that, called a lost leader, right? That took off. People were
right.
like, how many times do you get a phone call where it say, hey, we have a deal for you today, $399 for 3 rooms of painting. Are you interested? And people are like, yeah. No, seriously, the phones rang off the hook. So we put Burnmac.com together and we sold some franchises,
Hmm.
but it was also the
Wow.
time we had the publishing and that was doing well as well, right? So these different choices you make. So in Canada, I know that to go to different provinces had different rules for franchising. And in the US, it was different as well. You had to pay
Right.
different fees to have a franchise in any given state. And we
Hmm.
were like, man, we had a lot of inquiries, man, because we had the search engine optimization down. And we were doing, I'm going to just sort of stay in this internet thing for a second here.
Right.
Um, what we learned was article marketing. You know, we had outsourced article marketing for the publishing company, for the franchise company, and some from little internet stuff, you know, different websites we were doing. We owned a website called
Right.
whatyoufocusongrows.com.
Hmm.
That's around the time we also started with changeonebelief.com, and I'll get to that in a second. But back to the outsourcing. Outsourcing was just sort of a new thing. People were just starting to get their heads wrapped around. So we had people in the Philippines doing article marketing for us. We'd send them titles, we'd send them content. They'd put these articles together, edit them, and then they would shoot them off to different article directories on the internet. Like
Hmm.
eZine articles at the time was a big one. So if you had an article, you could send it to eZine articles, put your title at the bottom, you know,
Right.
Bob and Jeff McCallum, expert author, whatever.
Hmm.
As long as anyone could take that article and put it on their website, because everyone was looking for content back then.
Content. Right.
But for us, it was also a way to drive traffic to the websites, right? So we were paying like 600 US a month to agents of value, a company. So while we're dabbling in all this, just it kind of reminds me, fast forward to now, I'll get back to the change one belief, but fast forward to now, I think about what everybody's using now in outsourcing, and I'm just blown away at what we can do now in a short period of time. So back to the publishing and the franchising, we had a lot on our plates, right? We were all over the place. It was really awesome learning these different, you know, and the restoration for me was rising. It was getting bigger, the fire and flood restoration.
Wow.
And the choice, I have 4 kids. For me, it was, I live in a different city than Bob did. And for me, it was, I needed to focus on what I was doing, right? Um, the last book we did together I'll go back to that and then get out of the publishing, was called Change One Belief. So we
Right.
made up a URL domain, and we had people write to us on, you know, what one belief did you change to change your life, right?
Right.
And we had Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune write us one. We had Lorenzo Lamas. We had some other celebrities write us some stories. And so we pick and choose. And the whole thing behind this, by the way, was it was going to be a chicken soup for the soul series type of book, just like Jack Canfield, right?
Right.
That was the idea behind it.
Hmm.
Uh, it did, you know, we put it together. We still have it. It's done well. Here, I'll show you one, just to show you what it looks like. But and I want to emphasize, it's all made up, right?
It's all made up.
See,
Right.
it's a look at change one belief.
Right. I
That
did take a sneak peek and read a couple of the
Yeah,
stories.
and then
It's
that's
good.
the 101. And so I will say, John Assaraf, uh, he did a testimony for us in 2006 for that first book, and then Brian
Right.
Tracy did one for the other. But I had mentioned before, maybe you'd heard me talk about in Clubhouse, where I'd gone to John Assaraf's before he had done The Secret
Hmm.
and was invited to a seminar there. It was about 33 people. at his house for 3 days. And it was the
Right.
first time that I had ever really seen that type of wealth. And I was, I knew I was always kind of working towards, I guess, what wealth meant in my mind, right?
Right.
I'll never forget going to his place, and first thing we do is we do yoga and breathing techniques before we even start the seminar. And I thought, I was looking at my business partner going, I thought we were here for business, you know, right? I was like, what's happening here? So we sit and we talk business for the afternoon, and then pretty soon a day goes by. He brings in Dr. Amen, who is the brain scan specialist. You've seen him on PBS, Change Your Brain,
Right.
Change Your Life. He came in,
Hmm.
and we started talking about the brain and how it functions, and uh, how important it is. Like, don't kids should never play soccer. A soccer ball should never hit a kid's head. I remember him distinctly saying that for some reason. But he has all these brain scan clinics, California and Oregon, and he would scan the brain to see what's going on. If a kid was acting out, you could see what parts of the brain would be lit up, and did the kid get hit in the head? And then you'd see, this is, here's a brain on cocaine, here's a brain on marijuana, here's a brain on alcoholism. And he could fix that brain. That was his expertise, right?
Wow. Hmm.
But so he was a really interesting guest at John's, right? These guys both became famous before uh, after I had met them, right?
Right.
Um, so it was kind of cool to get in there before, but it was a game changer for me to go to John Assaraf's, because I felt like at the time uh, I had learned basically, as he was teaching us quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and there was a movie that we went to see the next night, Saturday, at a beatdown La Jolla theater. I thought, what show are we going to see? He goes, you'll be surprised, you'll see. And it was called What the Bleep Do We Know? And
Mm.
What the Bleep Do We Know came out before The Secret.
Right.
I believe that movie is much more powerful than The Secret.
I'll have to check it out. I've never watched it.
Yeah, you can actually get a copy of it go on YouTube and look for it's really, really good. So it's kind of an animated, you know, um, it's not animated, it's both, but some parts of it are animated, showing you
Right.
how the brain actually works and what happens when a synapses fires and stuff like that. Very fascinating. Anyway, it was a game changer going to John Assaraf's. For me, it
Hmm.
just screamed more and more potential. Seeing these people have this, you know, we went to a lawyer friend of his she was a lawyer for the entertainment industry, and I'll never forget the house. It was incredible that we go into this house and the whole wall gets removed, and then there's this desert backyard, and I'll never forget having a conversation with one of her guests, and he was telling me about 2 hours prior to coming to this function, he had dropped a jet plane in the ocean, because San Diego is where all the aircraft carriers are and stuff. But he ejected out of a jet that had he bailed out of a jet, and I'm having this conversation going, where am I? Anyway, I digress off that. But yeah, he was a big influence. So I know that until I came to Clubhouse, I never sat down and did an interview of who I was along the way. I was just
Right.
doing what I thought I should be doing. And oh, by the way, just do it. I never thought about it. I will say one thing that Bob and I had together was we could read books, and he would gobble books. I was busy building the service industry. He was doing his thing with the publishing, and we were um, splitting our time between the franchise, the publishing, and the service company. And we could talk about books every day. We could talk human philosophy, what makes people tick. We could talk business models. It was so cool. I had enthusiasm a different way than he did. He was an advertising executive from Toronto who had moved from Toronto to Vancouver, and he had made a lot of money in the 80s around, in franchising across Canada. So when I met him, he was already, you know, he had done
Right.
he had massive success, right? So it was cool to see. I mean, we used to have bets on what business would fold up, if we saw, it's ridiculous, right? So to be able to have that sort of mentoring, and really all we ever did was we didn't have an agenda anytime. We had a mastermind group, a couple of them, and every time we would go to a mastermind group meeting, I would always say, shouldn't we be taking notes? Like, who's taking the minutes of the meeting here? And he'd go, no, no notes, nothing. Just talk, just to sort of, a little bit like Clubhouse.
Right.
I believe Clubhouse is a lot like that. So the point being, if when you're an entrepreneur, you need somebody to talk to every day that's almost a neutral party and not even a business partner. If you have a business partner that's in the business with you, they can't give you the same perspective as somebody that's removed. I was
Right.
lucky that I could have Bob there every day. That made a huge difference because, for one thing, you can tell I like talking, right? So that's why
Yeah.
Clubhouse is my jam. And if you like talking, you can get it out, you can sort it out. If you can't
True.
get it out, you can't sort it out.
That's
And you
true.
won't grow. So while everybody's sitting around waiting for the silver bullet, oh, what is that thing? What's that one shiny thing that's going to change my life? And meanwhile, you don't even know because you need to get it out. You need to figure it out. So if you got a business problem or you have an employee issue, you need to be able to talk that out to a degree and go, well, what should I do? Should I fire this person? You firing that person could be the worst thing you could have ever done for the company because you're shooting yourself in the foot, which
Right.
created more pain for you, as it were. I'm deep diving here a bit, but okay, moving along. Out of the publishing, on with the company. As the restoration company did really well, and we grew. We ended up in the end with 3 locations. 6 years ago, we started a hazardous material company called NorHaz,
Right.
Northern Hazard Solutions. And that, again, we'd rode the fire and flood restoration industry. And then the hazardous material business came out of that industry. Like, I know everybody has heard of Erin Brockovich in the United States where she sued this chemical company. That
Right.
stuff, yeah, there's hazardous materials always been around. But the big game changer was asbestos removal in people's homes.
Right.
Okay. All the drywall had asbestos in the tape and stuff, right? So anytime we did any removals in somebody's house, we had to get it tested. So what does that mean? So it's always being on the leading edge of something new. We took that business out of the restoration and formed a different company, and it more than quadrupled in size because we could focus on it as a separate entity, and it just took off, right? And I'd brought my 2 older sons in, and another guy, Dean Gainey, from a different company, gave him a piece of the company, and it did really, really well. And last year I took the company that I had for 30 years and that company with them, and I rolled it into one, and we sold it all together to a private equity firm.
Wow.
So that was a beautiful exit. It was a lot of fun.
So you would say that you guys, the 2 of you are always innovative in terms of catching the train before it pulls out of the station, so to speak.
Yeah, and I should be clear about something. So it was probably 6 or 7 years ago that I parted ways with Bob in the publishing.
Okay.
I said, you go do your thing, I'm going to go do mine. I couldn't be, it's like if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability.
Right.
That type of thing. And I had got to the point where if I think back now, I think I was a little bit burnt out, trying to be, everything to everybody all the time.
Right.
And
Right.
I kind of checked out. I'd say that I quit in 2014. I just didn't tell anybody. So while I owned the service company, it was growing exponentially. I surrounded myself with the right people, but we also had the momentum. We had the infrastructure in place. If, we knew how to get new people, and if anytime you grow, you need an extra layer of executive, so to speak, right? So what I mean by checking out, first of all, let me clarify that. I went away to Italy for a month in 2014, and I got back, and when I was there, I was like, wow, I get to do this. This is cool. Even in 2011, when I went to, I think it was Hawaii, I thought, wow, I can do this. I don't have to be, in the grips of stress and fear in the business because it's all set up. Because, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't ever think you've arrived.
Yeah.
You don't think that you can, not that no one can do anything right and I have to do everything. It's just that being there and being on your game, you just felt like you needed to be there every day, whether it was on the phone. I've been working from this home office for years. Like I gave up my office at the main office years ago. But even
Right.
then, while owning the companies, your brain is still there and you cannot take off. It felt like, to me anyway, I couldn't
Mhm.
take off and go do something else,
I
you
get
know,
it. Makes
right?
perfect sense. Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do get
we're
it.
we're only human to you know, we can only
Yeah.
handle so much to a degree. So
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So you made astronom astronomical steps, quantum leaps, I would say, from where you were
yeah,
growing
that's a
up
good.
as a teenager, a young adult, to this point. If you were to describe the change in your mindset, your mentality from then to now, what would you say?
I think knowing what I know now, sorry, what would I change or what would I say
Yeah,
was,
what would you say? What would you say it was has been what it has been like?
I, oh, I can't hear you. There you
Hear me
are.
now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, I think it was figuring out who I really was. After I was done in the North Country and thinking, okay, yeah, this rock and roll thing is awesome, but it's not really what I wanted.
Hmm.
I knew somehow, I just knew that that was definitely not me. And I always felt like I, well, this is going to sound weird, but the rock and roll business back then and just musicians back then, I have a hard time hanging out with musicians because some of them have already arrived in their brain. You know what I mean? There was already this ego. I was in a band
Right.
once and I just, the egos, and I understand why bands break up now. I get that. And especially ego is the enemy. And some people can handle their ego and some can't. But I just realized who I was. Something just clicked for me. And I think actually, when I came to visit my brother, I'll never forget when he had a vision board on his fridge. I said,
Hmm.
"What's that?" He goes, "Well, this is my vision board." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then I read. He gave me a self-help book, and it was sort of from that point that was the game changer for me. Going, wow, I can do anything I want from just by changing my mindset. And
Right.
somehow I just knew I had this burning desire to do better, to want to be better. And so while music has always been in my life, it's it's actually therapy for me now, right? I have a little bit of I have a studio right there, see, with
Awesome.
a piano and that is all my guitars and stuff. So if I get anxious, I just get on there. I start playing lead guitar. Anyway,
Right.
I just making up your mind and I think it's the opportunity that comes into your life too. Part of that. But what do they say? Luck is just nothing but preparedness meeting opportunity, isn't it? When you're
Yeah,
prepared, it just comes. It really does. I believe it
that
does
is true.
anyway.
I
I
agree. I agree. 100%. I agree.
right?
Yeah, I do. Because I started a journey of my own, and for the most part it's just
Yeah.
working on me, knowing what I want, and then the opportunities just pop up, or I get ideas and I just act on them. So I get it completely. What are some of the lessons that you've learned over your lifetime of being an entrepreneur and excelling and pushing the envelope further and further? What are some of the things that you've learned?
Well, I think the biggest lesson is focus.
Focus.
Yeah, because you know, and I even say that in Clubhouse, I say, watch out for shiny objects,
Yeah,
you know, watch out for, but you know, when you're young, you need to try a few things to figure out who you are as an individual. You
true.
really do. People go, you know, some people are lucky enough to go, I want to be this when they're really young.
And they
And
stick to that.
they do, or they want their parents want them to be a certain way, and they realize when when they wake up one day, they go, wow, I don't really want to be a hockey player, or I don't want to be a basketball player, I don't want to be a doctor or whatever. Some people can go their whole life living other people's plans, right?
Right.
And the biggest one for me was focus. I think that I probably would have done a few things differently and excelled. Maybe I could have exited one of my companies. Maybe I could have got out of the service company earlier if I felt like it, you know.
Right.
Maybe I could, maybe 5 years earlier, who knows? And when I said I quit 6, 7 years ago, I should have done something about that. I should have made a decision to, you know, I think it was, don't get me wrong, money stress was always there. When you're in business, it's always there. I don't care what anybody says. It's not easy to make money and keep it,
Yeah.
especially when you're in business and you're burning it, you know, like you have a burn rate every month. And
So
then if somebody,
how do you deal with that stress, that money stress? What
well,
was your strategy?
yeah, somebody told me once, well, education, get educated, become a good
Okay.
student, you know. The other ones, somebody said once was, you know, uh, you have to come to some kind of harmony in your mind. Like when you have all these balls in the air, you can go to bed at night thinking, geez, I got all this going on in my brain. And I don't think you have to find a harmony. You really do. You have to come to grips with, hey, this ball could drop down at any time, and you have to be okay with that. You know, I just think, yeah, go with that.
Okay. Okay. So in terms, we're here to help educate people who might want to become an entrepreneur, right? Who and might not be thinking that it's possible. What would you say to an individual who wants to start a business, but they're followed by a lot of buts and ifs and maybes? What would you say to that person?
Well, of course, I'm going to say go for it because it's worth every second of the day. When you're an entrepreneur working for yourself, there's nothing better than that, is there?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you're young, do it
Right.
and do it now. I think do it and do it now. And surround yourself with the right people.
Very
That's a
important.
that's very important. And when I say become a good student, you know, you have to dig and find the right people. You really do. And it has to be this sort of, you have to discipline yourself to have this mindset every morning going, look at, I'm going to do this and do that, not beat yourself up to the point that, you know, some people can get too far ahead of themselves and go, well, you know, I got to have this set up first, and I got to have that set up first, and I got to have this. No, you don't. Just put the plane together while it's in the air, and it will work out. At least when you're young and you put a business together and it falls flat on its face, okay, you still have time to pick up the pieces and go, you know, of course, we
Yeah.
all don't want to go bankrupt, but I say now is the best time to be an entrepreneur because interest rates are so low, money is so easy to come by. And even that being said, I should be careful when I say stuff like that. But if you know how the game is played on crowdfunding and seed money, it's out there for you if you want it. And again, it depends on is it a product or is it a service? Both of those you can find the money for. Get the story figured out. Like it's actually ridiculous how much money is being given to companies, especially during COVID.
Right.
Because they want to, eventually kickstart everything, right?
Yeah.
Kickstart the economy again. But look at the rates right now. You can get a mortgage like some ridiculous, 1.5. That's just crazy, right? Anyhow,
Yeah.
does that answer it? Yeah.
Yes, it does answer my question, but it did prompt me to want to ask you another question. And that question is, how did you handle your hiccups, your roadblocks, your failures when you were doing what you were doing, starting new companies and so on?
Oh, so, just like I think you can measure success by, I'll get to that to the other, but success to me is all the little wins along the way. You stack them all up. Doesn't matter how small they are. I think you need to look at all your little wins every day while you're driving home from a project or while you're driving home to work at the end of the day. And you go, hey, how did the day go in your own mind? And you stack up the wins, that becomes success. And that's the same thing as when you're in business with problems. Yes, you're going to have problems. After a while, you get ground down a little bit. Every time there's a problem, you can freak out, which I did in the beginning when I was younger. I
Right.
go, holy cow, I need to get some money. I need some money, and oh, by the way, I need some money. And this loop just runs in your head. And as an
Right.
entrepreneur, and by the way, that word just became a thing, entrepreneur. I wasn't an entrepreneur back then. I was just a guy running a business or trying to get, make it by.
Yeah.
But you'd sit up at night and go, well, geez, how am I going to make these bills? Right. And then and then when we got bigger in the service industry, it was like, how am I going to, make payroll? And here I am at 3 a.m, worried about stuff like this. After a
Right.
while, when you realize that the wolves are not coming to the door, that your family is not going to be out on the street and you're going to be eating Kraft dinner the rest of your life, right? After you realize that everything does work out, you get better at it, man. You really do get better at it. It just that you take the punches, right? Just like a boxer, I suppose. Just don't, if you hit the canvas, there's the 10-second rule. 8
Which what
seconds. Well, you got
what
10
rule is
seconds
that?
to get up. The countdown
Okay.
is 10. When you get hit in the head with a,
Oh, you mean
imagine
okay,
being
I
hit in the
got it.
head with a boxing glove. That's like
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
hit, right? You got 10 seconds to turn it around. 8 when you're on the canvas. We'll call it the canvas for life. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. Okay, so we're almost out of time, but I have another question for you. So if I were to ask you, what do I need to do to get started, and what do I need to keep in mind as I embark on the journey before and after, during, what is that one thing that you would tell me that is very vital to being a person in business, maintaining your state of being, your mind, your family? What would you say? What would that one thing be, or two things?
Well, I really believe that health is key.
Oh,
I know that
okay.
it can sometimes get overused, but fact is, you're really no good to yourself or anybody if you're not maintaining your health.
True.
So for me, I hike. If I can hike up this mountain with my dog every day, I do it. And if I can't do that, at least I do something to get the blood flowing. Why?
Right.
I even notice at this age, I'm going to be 60 pretty quick here, that if I have grandchildren visiting, if I didn't weight lift, I wouldn't be able to be as flexible and grab these kids and get down with them like
Yeah,
but health is
definitely.
everything, Matt. It is, I don't care what, it's health is everything. And the other part of it is definitely constant, never ending learning, right? Keeping your brain active. Hence the reason why I end up on Clubhouse so much, you know, and I in particular like Manny Fernandez's Our Mindset Room, because we're not just talking about our mindset, we're talking about different business philosophies and all the time. Like the other day, we were talking about special acquisition companies
Yeah.
versus, right?
First
It's a
time I was hearing about that.
beautiful, right? Like that stuff's a lot of fun. You go, huh? You realize why the rich get richer is
Yeah,
they're
definitely.
students. They're good students, man. Yeah,
That is a fact. That is definitely true. Jeff,
yeah.
this has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation. Truly honored to have you on here. And do you have any last words?
No, but I appreciate and I'm grateful for you bringing me on today, and it's well, I guess it's Veterans Day there, and it's Remembrance Day here, and the whole, right?
Actually, I'm in Jamaica. I'm not in the US.
Oh, are you? Okay.
I'm in Jamaica. Yep.
Well, it's that is
Just
our
today.
that is our holiday today.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm just grateful that you reached out, and yeah, anytime if I can provide content, anytime I'm in. Why
Okay.
not?
Awesome.
I have the
Awesome.
time to
I
do
like
it.
it. Great.
Perfect.
And you're a mentor, so if you wanna tell anybody about what you do in terms of your
Well,
mentoring.
I didn't even when I jumped onto Clubhouse, I didn't really know what it was, but I just thought, wow, I get to talk. And I see Marta is listening, and Marta was our main administrator at the company I sold. She's listening.
Okay.
She knows how I like to talk. No, going into Clubhouse was a game changer for me because I understood, I understand what conversation therapy is. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
that's true.
understand that. It's so powerful. So yeah, I mentor right now for free. Like I got so many people back channeling me that I came up with go to jeffmccallum.com, because then you can fill out a form, go to a Zoom meeting, and you book this. And I only do 2 days a week, and it's been
Oh, I'll
fun.
definitely have to join you. I didn't
Yeah,
know about
yeah,
that.
no, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I have 7,000 followers from like 3.5 months of being on our mindset, and I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. I'm not sure anything. But if I can help people, great. Right now, I'm just sort of hanging out, having fun, and enjoying some kind of weird retirement, if that's what you really want to call it.
Well, well, you worked for it, so
Yeah,
that's great.
well, I'm pumped for the next, whatever's up next. But anyhow,
Okay, awesome. I'm definitely
cool.
gonna reach out to you to connect about that Zoom meeting, and so I can learn from one of the best who has done it time and time again. So looking forward to that. So again, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure having you, and it's a real good conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alrighty. Bye.
Take care.
All right, bye.